Hello, and welcome to Founder Freedom, From Hustler to CEO, the podcast built for e-commerce entrepreneurs and small business owners who are ready to work less, earn more, and scale smarter. I'm your host, Stephen Palmer, and today we're talking about floods, friends, and fluid fixes. Today's guests are Heather Petersen and Christian Olsen, co-founders of Watershed Innovations, the team behind HydraBarrier, a genius way to fight water with water. Let's jump in with Heather and Christian. Hey guys, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So can you tell us a little bit about the Watershed Innovations value proposition? What do you guys do and how do you help the world? Can you tell us a little bit about Watershed Innovations value proposition?
Yeah, Watershed Innovations. Heather and I are part of the co-founding team of Watershed Innovations, and we are a protection from water damage company. So we make products that help protect your home and property from water damage. Our main product is called the HydraBarrier. It's a fillable tube that you can use, a tube you can fill with water that's used in place of sandbags. And so our value proposition is that we allow you to deploy, rather than sandbags, a barrier in front of your home or property that can be filled with water, divert water, and then emptied and used again later.
Very nice. That's pretty unique. So what inspired you guys to create this brand?
So in 2008, so we're going kind of way back at this point, our business partners who are our co-founders had a personal problem with flooding, and every winter in the Santa Cruz, California area, the rains would come, and they kind of come nonstop. And water would come into their house from their pool, and it was a real pain point for them. And the solution at the time was to go out to Home Depot, grab some sandbags, fill them with sand, haul those 40-pound bags out to their pool area and create a perimeter. Now that worked, but it created a big mess. It was a big pain to deploy. And then after the full flooding stopped, the sandbags would degrade. And Santa Cruz had laws around what they could do with those sandbags. So it had to be disposed of properly. So there's a lot of pain points around there. And they thought, well, there must be a better, easier way to do this. And HydraBarrier was born. It was the start of our company, which, then grew into more products and product lines from there.
That's pretty neat. I bet you they work better too than the sandbags.
They do.
Yeah. As far as like what happens in between the sandbags, less leakage.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And because we have different sizes, different lengths, different heights, they're flexible in that regard and also bendable, reusable. So there's a lot of advantages.
Yeah. So we kind of started this, but what was the major change or gap that you saw in the marketplace that led to this business creation?
Right. Well, flooding is a common problem. It's a growing problem, but there's really limited tools, especially for individuals and homeowners to utilize to combat this. Also businesses, agricultural entities, manufacturers, construction sites. There's all sorts of uses for people wanting to divert water, incoming water, and to really contain it, and all limited options besides sandbags. So we saw that in the market, and we wanted to create a fast product to deploy and one that was reusable and eco-friendly.
So these are some of the problems that you solved. Like what was broken was that sandbags were pretty much the only thing in the marketplace.
Yeah, and they're not fun, right?
Right.
So using a sandbag is not a good time in general.
No. What do they weigh? Like 50 or 75 pounds probably.
A sandbag, I think when you start filling them, they weigh 50 pounds. And as you get farther along, they probably weigh like 10 or 20 because you don't want to carry them.
Oh, right.
It gets lighter as you go, I think.
Yeah. My back hurts just thinking about this process.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So just explain a little bit more in depth, like how the product and maybe some of your other products solve these problems better than the existing alternatives in the marketplace.
Well, it's sort of what I talked about earlier, or Heather talked about, sorry. You want to deploy. When a storm comes, not everybody is ready for the storm. And when you got to get ready, you got to get in a line with a bunch of people, whether it's at Home Depot or at a county, and start filling the sandbags. The county generally doesn't give you filled sandbags. Now, if you're older or, not as strong, like that's managing those, loading them up. If you're trying to put a bunch of sandbags in a Prius, you're going to be making a bunch of trips. Whereas if you have one of our barriers, Heather has one here. So
yes.
Go ahead.
So these barriers, they come, depending on the size, they come pretty compact. They're always coming like this folded. You can see this. It can easily be tucked on a garage shelf. And again, these are strong and flexible. They're rolled out. So what's nice about these is, look at how lightweight they are.
Right.
You put them in, the designated spot. Then you roll it out and you bring a garden hose or a bigger hose, but a lot of folks bring a garden hose to fill it up. And that way they're not doing that back-breaking work. They fill up this barrier until it's mostly full. And that creates a lot of weight to combat water with water. The water comes, it prevents the water from moving past it. And then when you're done, you just basically dump it out. There's a spout here. You can press the water out. You can use one of our pumps. We have hydro pumps. So we have smart pumps that will displace water. And then, you can roll up, squeeze it out, let it dry a little bit in the sun. And then it's ready again to be stored for the next use.
Nice. Yeah. So it's a really long bag.
So that's something. So these come in different lengths. This is a 6-foot one, but we have them in different lengths. And then as you fill them, they can go into different heights. So we have ones that are like the shorter ones are 4 inches, and they go all the way up to soon to be 30 inches. And then you can chain them together to make longer barriers. Then a lot of people ask if you can bend them. The small ones you can bend, like Heather mentioned earlier, but the bigger ones are heavy enough that you can kind of butt them together. And then when they fill, they have enough pressure to keep them apart.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
But what might be good is to kind of explain a use case where, like, we use these at our house. And so we have a sliding glass door, and the sliding glass doors have these little weep holes to let water come down and go out. But the problem is when there's a hurricane, Mother Nature likes to generate a lot of wind. And what happens is that water gets pushed up those weep holes into our living area. And so we have a laminated floor, and that will damage the laminated floor. But we take one of these barriers, in a hurricane, it switches directions, but we can deploy relatively quickly. We fill one up, and then we put it in front of our sliding glass door. And then we don't have that problem of that driving wind and rain, which is, no matter how bad the hurricane is, it seems like it's a chronic problem for us. So
sure.
So we have these at our place. They're in the garage now. We pull them out, use them, empty them out, put them back in the garage, and wait till next time.
Nice. So for somebody doing research on this topic and they come across your website, what do you think is the biggest misconception that people might have about what your company does with this barrier?
Well, I think people are probably a little confused about using water to fight water. A lot of people see the tube and they think you fill it with air, but as we all know, air floats.
Yes.
So it doesn't take long, but you got to tell somebody, okay, you fill it with water and you can fight water with it. Like, clearly, if you threw a full barrier in a pool, it's not going to work. But like that's why we have them in different heights. So if you think you're going to have 4 inches of water coming towards your sliding glass door or whatever, you buy a 6-inch one. If you have a couple inches, you buy a smaller one. If you have 10 inches, you buy a bigger one either the 12-inch or the 20-inch. So,
nice.
But it's so new of an idea, they don't really know, like, you can deploy a barrier with water to stop the water from coming in. So I think that is confusing part at first, but once they get it, then people get it pretty good. So
yeah. So it's an awareness kind of challenge, right? Because it's kind of a new product in the marketplace.
Yeah. And traditionally, everybody knows what a sandbag is, which is sort of good and bad, right? But not everybody knows about these kinds of products.
Right. Well, that's pretty cool. So can you share a success story, either about a customer or maybe a bigger concept about a mission statement win that the company's had, or both?
Yeah. Well, maybe the New York. So
I guess on a bigger scale, New York City purchased like literally a pretty huge truckload of these to give out to their citizens as part of their Sandbag deployment program. So it's our Sandbag alternative, but they had a citywide effort, sponsored by the city to help enable and prepare their citizens for incoming flooding. And it was far-reaching. Our devices were free to their citizens. And again, they're reusable, it's sustainable. It's easier for cities and counties when they enable their citizens and when it's not, and it's something that's reusable as well. And so that cuts down on the resources required, like year after year, storm after storm, if their citizens are able to have supplies on hand season after season. And so that was a big success story for us. We've also had homeowners, like the last storms, we live down here in Tampa, Florida. And so last year, particularly, we were hit pretty hard with 2 different hurricanes. People are used to, in Tampa, like we have this little nook, and most people think that, hey, we're kind of protected and hopefully it'll pass by. We didn't get so lucky in the broader area last year.
Oh.
So, the days of those storms, we had, especially heavy demand, a lot of customers pleading for help before, knowing that we were about to get hit pretty directly. And so we usually send our product out via mail, but on this occasion, Christian went out and took the product to a lot of the customers who needed it immediately.
Well, I mean, if you want to know what our mission is, I mean, like, we own homes. We're like everybody. When you call, you talk to a person, and that person has the same problems you have. And our goal is to make sure you can do what you can to protect what you have, but I'm also to be safe. I've had people call who live on the water in Tampa, and they're like, "We're expecting 9 feet of storm surge," and I'm like, "You need to leave."
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know. I mean, you need a team of engineers to figure out how to save you at this point. Like,
And probably weeks worth of work.
yeah,
So like a 9 feet of water is sort of insurmountable, but most folks have something, much manageable.
yeah.
Right.
And so the example Heather gave. So we had the first storm here, which was storm surge, which was surprising because there wasn't a lot of wind. There was some. Don't get us wrong. But the second one, everybody was freaking out. And I have a home. I have to get ready for the storm, but it's the South, and I mean, it's sort of there's a community here. Whenever there's a storm, everybody helps everybody. So I loaded up a bunch of orders that were local, and when I say local, like 2-hour radius, I loaded up a bunch of orders, and I drove to everybody I could to try to help them out. But I mean,
We got some good thank you notes from that people were grateful that they were able to deploy the barriers, that they worked well for them. And so, they're in our community.
And it's not, I mean, selfishly, it's really nice to hear when you help somebody to, I do like, I mean, it's nice to have a business that makes money, but don't get me wrong, but it's also good that it can benefit people and they can protect what they have. There's a lot more people who need products who maybe don't get the attention they need. So it's nice when you can give them something that they can deploy, especially if they're older, and then they can reuse. So
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great story about awesome customer, including courier delivery.
Right.
yeah.
Love
He was
it.
getting tips
You see
too.
anybody who looks like this showing up,
Yeah,
the
That's
white
good.
glove.
White glove
That is white glove treatment for sure. So do you see any trends that are maybe shaping the future of your industry as you gain more steam here?
I think, there's a couple. One is just the building awareness. I think folks are more aware than ever before about changing weather patterns. They're more aware about preparedness. They're definitely more aware of what they either see on the news in terms of flooding or what's happened to them directly.
Yeah.
Sure.
They also understand that, the cities and counties, they are stepping up. We're seeing that too. But, folks know that they're pretty much the first line of defense to, protect their own home and property. They're starting to be, kind of lean into it a little bit more in terms of trying to get ahead of it, knowing that waiting until, the storm is here is not really a strategy, right? Like waiting till the rain start and you're supposed to be off the streets isn't really a strategy. We see some more preparedness. We also see, like I mentioned, cities and counties, more inquiries, more focus groups around here from counties looking to get feedback from homeowners on what to do specifically about flooding and hurricanes, and also businesses, educational efforts. I think things have definitely stepped up in the education and preparedness area.
That's good. I mean, because that's what it's all about in the awareness game, is just, trying to build the steam. And you're in a pretty specific niche. It's not, like an everyday item.
Exactly.
But as you said, it makes you wonder sometimes about people. But if you're paying a mortgage, property preservation should be like the first thing after paying the mortgage.
In everybody's situation is unique. By the way, like, look, if you've lived in an area that's got hurricanes and you've never been hit with one for 30 years, you're going to have a different outlook on things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, we would do what we can to help when they call frantically. But, I understand. But I would say people are less keen on what could happen than they ever have been before. So
Especially around here. And I think even generally, like the awareness of changing weather patterns and what could happen has changed how people look at this.
And digital communication is probably, swinging in your favor as well, right? Because it makes it easier for people to share.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you have any advice for other business owners that might be listening to this? Like, how could they stay ahead of the curve or avoid certain potholes in relation to running a business or an e-commerce business specifically?
Well, I mean, it's the age-old, listen to what your customers have to say. I mean, the more you can talk to the people on the street, the more we've talked with people. That's why we have introduced new products, is because when you talk to people, you hear what their pain points are. I mean, you can't always solve exactly what they want, but you hear enough feedback from people, you kind of get a good sense of what you could do to help the most amount of people.
Nice.
So that's what I would say would be the best thing you can do.
That's awesome. So what's up next for your company short term here?
Sure. So we're continuing to build out our HydraBarrier line of products. So that means different form factors, different colors, even sizes, bigger, better barriers, because we, again, like Christian said, we get customer feedback and we're listening to our customers. And so that's definitely one push for us. We're working with fielding more inquiries from cities and counties and really trying to help with education. So we're doing that locally, but that has broader reach. And then along with our HydraBarrier line, we are continuing to focus on our other products because we have the hydro pump line, like I mentioned, of automatic smart pumps, and we have a variety of those. We have hydro tarps, so we have tarps that are a little bit thicker than your average tarp because we want to make them industrial strength for homeowners and businesses to use, and hydrosorbers, which absorb water. So we're continuing to focus on building out those other products as well.
Nice. I like the absorbers.
Yeah, the absorbers, yeah. One thing I would add, though, is that due to some federal programs, there's grant money for cities and counties. We're working with a few where we can help them generate proposals. So instead of just you getting sandbags for their citizens, they can work with us and we can help them get grant money so that they can buy HydraBarriers so that, if they have a lot of, it's just Florida, we have a lot of older people who may not be able to start throwing around.
Sure.
We're working with local and actually in other states, but helping them get grant money so that they can have programs where they can deploy these barriers so that way people have something that they can use when there's a storm. Because not everybody needs a big pile of sandbags. So.
Right. That's cool. Well, I wish you the best on your awareness growth because that's the heaviest lifting that a new product has, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
So what's the best way for our listeners to get involved with HydraBarrier and what you're building here?
Well, I think they can come check out our website at HydraBarrier.com. They can see the variety of products we have, but we also have some resources on, blogs and videos on how to use our products or tips and tricks on, water, basically, awareness about water. So those are some ways to get involved. Of course, we have email info@hydrabarrier.com if they want to reach out to us directly. We have a phone number on our website as well. We have chat too, so we do because it's kind of our main chat.
Yeah, well, you'll get a person on the chat.
Yeah.
If you ask a technical question, we have a way of it answering it because you probably don't care if you talk to me. But generally, we get a lot of inquiries through the chat, and if that's a great way to go because then if you decide you want to talk with somebody, I usually give up my cell phone number once I've established a discussion with somebody.
Nice.
So that's a pretty good way too, which is sort of not something we actually realized when we set that up. That's actually was a really good ad for us. So
nice discovery. I mean, absolutely real customer service.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, folks. Well, that's a wrap here on another episode of Founder Freedom. A big thanks to Heather and Christian of HydraBarrier for showing us how to turn wet disasters into victories with eco-friendly engineering and a lot of entrepreneurial heart. If you're in a flood-prone territory or just hate shoveling soggy sandbags, check out HydraBarrier at HydraBarrier.com. It's water control without the backache. Like what you heard here? Subscribe and share to this episode and leave us a review to help other founders find their path to freedom. Until next time, keep creating, keep scaling, and never lose your style.